Hello all, today I am going to be showing how to combat malware. I made a video on Windows before and I didn't realize there was a lot to fighting malware, and so I thought it would make a good video just to go through a bunch of methods, warnings, and things to do and not to do in order to fight viruses and make sure you don't lose your information, or you have to factory reset and you have all of your data, personal data, finances, or even homework if you're a student, on your computer, and then you're forced to factory reset and then you lose everything. So that really sucks, and it's happened to me a bunch of times. I've seen it happen to my family where they get malware on their computer and they lose a lot of Excel files, things like that. Alright, to begin the basics, invest into Malwarebytes. So I'm going to be going through a few different things, and I'll have markers in the description so that if you already know something, you could just skip ahead to the next one. So right now, it's all about antivirus. So Malwarebytes, invest into that. Don't buy it. Just get the free download and use the scanner. Put it on a schedule, maybe once a week, whenever you don't want to use the computer. That way it could just go through everything. So always check scan for rootkits and see and then scan, and just make sure you use that. If it gets updated to like 5.0 and it looks completely different, the function is still the same. If it becomes no longer free, well, that sucks. We'll have to find another antivirus. At the same time, we have Defender. So just put Defender in the, it's now called Windows Security. Okay, cool. And just make sure that some of this is checked and that it's not bugging you. But at the same time, make sure that you have your scan turned on for every once in a while. Just scan through it with full scan. If you end up in an emergency situation, the offline scan. Make sure you have a firewall on and you're protecting the ports that you're not using. For example, if you're using Minecraft or as a server, unblock 25565 or something, and if you have a web server, then 80 these ports. But you generally want them to be blocked for incoming traffic. So just make sure your network is secure. So that's quickly Malwarebytes and Defender. You should invest time into knowing how to use those in order to stop viruses from ever being run. So for example, if you were to go to downloads and you were to see an exe like this one that you've never seen before, do not double click it. Instead, scan it, try to make sure it's okay, and do that with another website called Virustotal at the same time, and I'll show you that in a minute. Also, the next step, which would be a cloud service. So I recommend investing in Google Drive financially. It's not that much, but if you're going to be downloading terabytes of information, maybe you find another one like Mega. Mega is much more, so I'll show you them. Mega is better for bigger, where is it? What the heck? Mega, where is the website? Mega, here it is. Okay. No. Mega Cloud is good for, wow, it's .nz, did not know that. I think this one is good for large cloud storage. It was a year ago. Let's see the pricing. Yeah, it is. So you see that 2 terabyte, 8 terabyte, 16 terabyte. That's if you're like a professional trying to save multiple computers' information into one cloud. Then you have Google Drive, and I do not recommend OneDrive unless you get it for free with your work or student stuff. And then you're pretty much screwed. You got to do that. But with Google Drive, you could buy storage, and it's a lot smaller. So they see like this one, 2 terabytes, $10 a month. That's not bad. But basically, the idea is put all of the information you deem important onto here, and usually these cloud services keep a backup. So you have your backup on the cloud, and they back it up too. So if you get a virus that takes over your computer, finds your password to your cloud and deletes it, there's still a backup that you can call them for and ask them, hey, can I have the backup? And it's like, yes. And all you have to do is factory reset your computer if it's that bad. Okay. So yeah, do that on the cloud. Then uninstall all unknown apps. So I recommend going to Control Panel every once in a while, maybe every other week, going to Programs and Features, and looking through them and finding which ones are not cool. Which ones do not look right. So you look through that every once in a while. I do it sometimes. And then at the same time, you do Control-Delete, get on the Task Manager, and check for anything using resources, especially if it's high resources. You organize it by CPU, and just making sure the sound's on. And so you organize it by CPU, and if you don't see anything taking information, you're good. Memory, not so much, but it's possible, I guess. And then look up your startup, right? And try to go to status and look for the ones that are enabled. And if you see one that's really weird, like this one's Giazzo, but if I didn't recognize it, like Skype, screw Skype, I don't like them. Disable, perfect. So you see this right here, it says program, that's very sketchy. Make sure it's disabled, and open file location and delete it. It's just a really good practice to make sure you're not running programs that you do not want run. So at the same time, when you're uninstalling and hunting for programs that you do not know, the last place to look is Task Scheduler, where this is where a lot of malware puts fake startup times. So they'll pretend to be another program like Windows Defender or Google Chrome, and it'll literally write like Google Chrome update, and then it says @logon do this, and you can go to the actions and you'll see something really sketchy right here, something like this, except this is something that I made, so it's not that bad. But then you would just right click and disable, go to the file, like look for the directory, go there, delete it, do a full scan, and take off all your startup and uninstall all the programs that just look real sketchy. And usually that takes care of most surface level viruses. There are some more hardcore viruses that you just can't get rid of. Every single time you delete something, it comes back in a different way, and those are very, very scary, and they do exist. Pop-up blockers, so that stuff is really, really good in general, not just for the fact that you're blocking pop-ups. It looks like this. I use AdBlock. It's not just for annoyance, where you have the advertisements everywhere on the website, right on the side, on the top of the web page, but at the same time it protects you from pop-ups that are malicious. So I recommend getting a pop-up blocker and only disabling it when you have to, and additionally, if you do, be very, very careful with the pop-ups. Always X out your pop-ups very, very quickly, so if something pops up, exit out right away. Don't even entertain it, no matter what it is. And that's just good practice. And just make sure that when you do turn it off, do it with caution. If you want to find out whether or not a website is trustworthy, a good way to do that would be to look at this right here. So let's go to a trustworthy website. We'll call it YouTube, right? And you see this this little lock on the top left right here. This will tell you it has a certificate for encrypting the information from the web server to the domain name service to you, right? So it's all encrypted, kind of like a tunnel, and not really. And it means that the connection is very, very likely not to have malicious stuff. It doesn't mean it doesn't, but it increases the likelihood that what you're on is legitimate. So, for instance, I hope I don't end up going to some website okay, we'll just use this picture, because I don't want to go to a website and then just mess everything up. So you see this right here, you see my mouse, it says not secure. That's the biggest sign, like maybe you shouldn't turn off your ad blocker. Let's say you really want something from the website, you could turn it off. Just be very, very careful when you do that. Very, very careful. And whenever there is a pop-up, especially on these not secure websites, and you don't know who it is, for example, we go to Legion Athletics, which is one of my favorite websites and blogs. I hope I spelled it right. We go here, and you're going to get all sorts of pop-ups, and you're going to get advertisements, and see, like, you see this show notifications? If you don't know who it is, don't even click block, don't even click allow, don't even, just click the X, but even the X is like, don't click it, because they could make that pop up and hook like a malicious link to allow or block, and then you end up basically screwed. And the main indicator would be the pop up, you don't know who it is, and there's no SSL. So if those three things are happening, don't even click it. If it blocks you in the middle of the screen, too bad, don't access the website. But by clicking these two, you sort of expose yourself. But because I know this guy in general, and I've emailed him, then it's like, okay, this guy's real. You could click allow and block, and you will get messages on the bottom right. Okay, so that is that. So that has to do with SSL, pop-up, never accept notifications. Whenever you download a file, so if you were to go to AdFly and you were to download a file, let me see, download a file. Let's see. Let's say you download a file and it's not more than 5 megabytes. Like, here's a big one. Let's say you're downloading a private game that somebody made, RuneScape, for example, and you download it and it's like 50 kilobytes. Well, just so you know, scripts are like 50 kilobytes. Games are like 1 gigabyte, like way bigger. So if you are downloading a small file and it looks legitimate, I would say be very cautious. Scan it, get on Virustotal, I'll show you in a little bit. Scan it, make sure it's safe. If it's a big file, it's more than likely safe. If it's too big to even scan, it's more than likely safe. The only issue is they could edit the code and make it a virus itself, a Trojan. But even at that, it's more and more unlikely when it's bigger. So just make sure when you download files that they are actually big. Another thing is chatbots. So if you don't know the person, like when we go to Legion Athletics, you're going to see this right here, right? And you're going to see a chatbot. So if you go to websites that are generally not secure, on the bottom left where that pop-up was, you'll find like chats where it's like, hey, how are you doing? It's going to be like this really good dude or something. You don't even click the X, like don't even, and then there's going to be multiple pop-ups like, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to do this? Like that. See that? Right there where my mouse is like that. Anything that comes up like that, don't even click it. What I mean is on websites that you do not know, or that you've not been to, or you don't know who it is. With this guy, I know it's legit. This chatbot is legit, but on places you don't know without SSL, don't even start the chatbot, don't even click those pop-ups. You'll save yourself a lot of hassle just not doing that. Alright, Virustotal. Let's say you download a little file and you don't know if it's legitimate. It's way less than a megabyte and it looks like a script. It'll be easy to just go to Virustotal, right? And you never run it, for one, don't run it, and just choose the file and let's see, and upload it, and there you go, and it tells you nothing on there. And it does a whole bunch of different algorithms. In my previous video I talked about it, but you could see from the community, this is an obscure file, so you're not going to have the people talking about it. So yeah, just do this, and you'll find out, hey, this is good, and you can run it. All right. If you do get infected and you end up with what I would call direct combat with a virus, and I've had a point to where I had a putty thing going on. I didn't know how it happened. I was running my website on my computer, and somebody installed putty on my computer and was doing things, and I honestly couldn't tell if it was a script or a person connected to me through what's it called, FTP, file transfer protocol. I couldn't tell if I was in combat with a person. I call it that because it sounds so cool. I couldn't tell if it was in combat with a script or a person. So I turned off putty, I signed out, and I got on a USB I got a USB OS, I turned off the internet, and uninstalled all the programs that I could find. I looked everywhere, I scanned it in safe mode, and I was able to get back on. But it was a serious moment, like, wow, that was cool. It was like direct combat for real. So that's something I recommend, getting a USB, maybe 2 gigabytes, putting something like Linux Mint, or even just Windows 10 virtual, just like run it from the USB and disconnect from the internet and try to figure it out. Sometimes you have to, most of the time actually, you'll have to factory reset whenever you end up in that serious situation where there's a virus taking over your computer, which is why I recommend the cloud service, just to make sure you don't lose your files, which in the end is the most important thing. So it's either fight the virus or factory reset at that point. An additional tip, in the middle of this combat, I would say, if your computer is freezing up, do not hold the power button. That's just one thing that I didn't understand for months. If Windows is freezing up because a virus is using up all of your disk or CPU usage and is doing all sorts of crazy things, and you end up in that situation, do not use the power button to turn off the PC, because it could corrupt Windows, and you have to end up factory resetting. So then you lose your files, and that's happened to me more than 5 times. So what I recommend doing is, if you're having these issues, let's say you're playing a video game from Steam and your computer freezes up, it says not responding, you're clicking everything, and 10 minutes later it's like, what do I do? How do I stop this? And Task Manager isn't running, and it's just a video game. That happens to me. And my computer's from 2009, so then the only thing to do would be sign out. So signing out turns off all the programs, and it doesn't power anything off. Like, it doesn't just turn off Windows in the middle of processing. That way you don't corrupt Windows and have to do a factory reset or a rollback to a previous version or previous update. So instead, I recommend, I can't even do it. I recommend, because then it'll stop OBS, I recommend going to sign out Windows. So control delete and look for sign out. There it is, right there. So control delete sign out, because usually at this point Task Manager won't even run because it's so slow. So you'll only be able to open up this window with control delete sign out, and that's it. Alright, so that's a bunch of ways. It's how I've stayed virus free for maybe 3 or 4 months, and believe it or not, for me, because of all the server stuff I do, it's very common to just end up getting some kind of malware just from hosting a website on my computer or something. It happens a lot. Alright, I hope you learned something.